Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang Dhammang Saranang Gacchami. I go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Good evening, dear friends, and welcome to this Wednesday night sutta discussion at the Empty Cloud Monastery. We're trying broadcasting from upstairs tonight, the same place that many of our local friends come very regularly for the programs on Saturday evening and Sunday afternoon. I'm beginning to look into sati, samma sati, or right mindfulness, which is a very vast subject about which many great monk teachers have given the most profound teachings, and as well, many academic scholars have debated about the significance, and many people in the realm of psychology and secular meditation have taken aspects of mindfulness. So I thought it would be interesting to try to take a fresh look and to meet again with what the Buddha said. What did the Blessed One have to tell us about mindfulness? So this sutta here is in the chapter about Anuruddha, the monk Anuruddha. It gives, I'm not sure how many, 13 or 14 suttas. There were teachings given by the Buddha's disciple, Anuruddha, and every single one almost, he's speaking about the power of sammasati, the power of mindfulness. So apparently this was the theme that was his primary practice, and so we're listening to his version of it. I'll say a little bit about the background. Anuruddha was one of the earliest disciples to be lifted up and given the bhikkhu robes by the Buddha. He was a cousin of the Buddha. He was known to be a very friendly, amiable, and kind, loving bhikkhu. He was not particularly famous for giving deep analytical teachings like Sariputta, or for having magical powers or superhuman powers like Moggallana. But he was known as a good monk, as a harmonious monk, and as an important monk who was present at many of the great events of the Buddha's lifetime. So I'll go right ahead with reading you his sutta, his teaching here. This is called the Rahogata Sutta. That's private, Patama Rahogata, so that's the first of two with this name. So I've heard at one time, Venerable Anuruddha was staying near Savatthi in Jeta's Grove on Anathapindika's monastery. Then, as Anuruddha was in private retreat, this thought came to his mind. So this is what occurred to him meditating in seclusion. Whoever has missed out on these four kinds of mindfulness meditation has missed out on the noble path to the complete end of suffering. Whoever has undertaken these four kinds of mindfulness meditation has undertaken the noble path to the complete ending of suffering. So in this case, this is a statement about the centrality of mindfulness in our path. And we know that mindfulness is central because it's one of the factors of the Eightfold Noble Path. And in the factors of awakening, it's one of the factors in that set. And in the main indriyas, the faculties of the mind, sati has a central place. It's a balancing position that helps a person to balance between the energetic aspects of investigation and bliss, and the tranquilizing aspects of samadhi and equanimity. So we see that mindfulness appears again and again in these different contexts. Venerable Mahamoggallana knew that what Venerable Anuruddha was thinking. As easily as a strong person would extend or contract their arm, he reappeared in front of Anuruddha and said to him, "Reverend Anuruddha, how do you define the undertaking of the four kinds of mindfulness meditation by a mendicant?" And here's the answer. It's when a mendicant meditates, observing the body internally as liable to originate, as liable to fall, and as liable to originate and vanish. Keen, aware, mindful, rid of covetousness and displeasure for the world. They meditate observing the body externally as liable to originate, liable to fall, and as liable to originate and fall. Keen, aware, mindful, rid of covetousness and displeasure for the world. They meditate observing the body internally and externally as liable to originate, liable to fall, and as liable to originate and fall. Keen, aware, mindful, rid of covetousness and displeasure for the world. So this is the first foundation of mindfulness, which is the body, the kaya. In this regard, we see that what we can call a trope, or there's standard phrases that appear again in the teachings, and sometimes a monk or who's teaching may put together a combination of the elements of Dhamma in the way that they understand it. So this observing the origination liable to having the nature to originate, the nature to fall, and the nature to originate and fall. So this is the contemplation of impermanence with respect to the body. I associate this with, in particular, the graveyard contemplation, where we know that this body, the body that we got for this lifetime, is not going to last forever. This body is going to disappear, become like a useless log laying in the forest. It's going to decompose, fall apart, eventually turn to nothing except a few scattered bones, and eventually turn to nothing except dust. So the material aspect of this living body will disappear. As far as the origination, we remember a teaching elsewhere about how this body comes to be through the union of mother and father, and a gandhabba, which is an element ready to be born, and which is built up from rice and gruel, and which is just a bag of the nutriments that have been taken into the body in the process of being digested and converted into the as parts of the body, the muscle, the bones, and so forth. So that's the origination of the body. So this very, you could almost say it's simplistic. Of course, anybody knows the body originated when we were born, or when we were conceived. The body originated inside the mother's womb. Everybody knows the body's going to disappear. So why is this teaching so deep? Part of the power and the strength of this mindfulness meditation is that it helps us to not get swept away by unskillful perceptions, by perceiving things accurately as they are. So a person could get a lot of unskillful perceptions related to beauty and strength and pride and conceit, thinking this body is so beautiful, this body is so attractive, this body is so lovable, thinking that when we fall in love with somebody else, that there's a way in which the something about this body and something about the other person's body seems to be really the greatest, and it is the cause of obsession, a cause of actually delusion, thinking that this particular body and that particular body are the most unique and wonderful things in the world, something like that. And so that kind of unbalanced way of perceiving that can lead to obsession, it would be what we could call an unskillful perception. Like it may be that this body is beautiful, or maybe this body is ugly, or maybe it's both beautiful and ugly, depending on how you look at it or what the perception is. And then it could be that that this body is strong, or this body is fit, temporarily able-bodied, and that one can know this. So it's not a question of what's exactly true or not true, but it's a question of what's helpful. So a lot of the perceptions that people have about the body are supporting neurotic attitudes, or obsessive thoughts, or distractions, which take one away from the spiritual path. Or it could be that people get very emotional about their body in ways that are afflictive, because of conceit or pride, or because of feeling that this body is never good enough, or something like that. So there's many distorted ways to be emotionally entangled with the body. But if you just look at it, just be simple. Take this other truth, which is also also true, but this truth about being aware of the impermanence of it, being aware that this body came together at birth and is going to cease at death. That fact, it might stir up fear initially, but if we overcome that fear and are able to look directly at the nature of the body, then when we overcome fear, then that perception of the impermanence of the body is a calming perception. It's a view which is in line with reality, that helps to settle down and helps to overcome delusion. It helps us to have the first, almost like the great opening. This theme of impermanence is such a profound and important perception that's to be developed. That's like the wisdom that we're seeking through this whole path, is the wisdom about impermanence. And that impermanence is not just reflecting the body, it's reflecting everything in samsara. But the impermanence of the physical body is a very clear way to get a hold of that understanding. So this meditation is both supporting to calmness and supporting to wisdom. So that's the first one. I'll say something else about this. A lot of times, I remember when I was starting in the Dhamma, and I took some introduction to meditation retreats, when they were teaching about the mindfulness of the body. They taught about scanning the sensations that could be felt in the body, like the sensation that you can feel on the top of the head, and the sensations you can feel around the forehead, and all around the head, and all around the face, and going down the body from the top of the head to the bottom of the toes, and down the arms through the fingers, and every part of the body, being aware of sensations. And as well, in the process of doing that, one can experience the visceral sensations on the inside of the body, like what's if there's any pleasant feeling or painful feeling, tension or relaxation, or the way the heart is beating, and the way the vibrations are happening on the inside of the body. But that particular teaching is not included in the Satipatthana Sutta as an aspect of contemplation of the body. It's not there. Nevertheless, it is a very useful meditation, and it to me, it's that meditation is really a meditation about touch. Touching is one of the six senses, and the contemplation of the six senses is included in the Satipatthana in the last section under the Dhamma section. There's one of the meditations that is offered is about contemplating the six senses and the fetter that arises from the six senses. And what is that fetter? That fetter is with the contact of the senses and the corresponding consciousness coming together, there arises a Vedana or feeling, and with the feeling, there can arise craving and clinging. And so this is where if we are not aware of the body, there can be, let's say, I see something that's either that I like or something else that I dislike. And when I look at that, there's a visceral reaction in the body for or against that thing that I've seen. And so actually the touching sensation in the body, those visceral reactions, are helping us to clarify and see the Vedana that's happening. And it's helping us to see it in a way which is not connected with the whole story that gets concocted when we get carried away with craving. So the feelings that are arising from the touch of the body are honest. Those material feelings in the body are honest feelings. They're like truthful feelings, telling us what's really going on and giving us a chance to see what's really happening with respect to feeling without necessarily getting carried away into the proliferation of perceptions and stories. So that's a nice meditation. I'm glad that Dhamma teachers teach it, and secular meditation teachers teach it, and they teach little children in school how to be in touch with their body in order to recognize how they feel and to acknowledge that before they start acting out. Those are all really good things, but it's not actually part of Kaya Nupassana. It's part of something else. Goenka emphasized this body scanning, and his teacher, Uba Khin, initiated that method as part of the basic meditation technique that is taught in that group. And as I understand, the explanation that Uba Khin gave was that the sensations in the body was the easiest place to observe impermanence. And so that was his reason for emphasizing that practice, was because it's a good way to see impermanence. Okay, so then we come to the next meditation. And this is a meditation that we see elsewhere in the sutras about Vedana, about feeling. And in the Satipatthana, it's just mentioned to see the pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral feelings. Seeing those feelings that are arising from the flesh, arising from the body, and also seeing the pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral feelings, which are spiritual feelings. So that's the teaching in the Satipatthana. In this case, Anuruddha is giving a teaching which is elsewhere taught for the purpose of becoming equanimous towards pleasant and unpleasant feelings, so that a person does not get carried away with like and dislike, with preferences, with unwholesome and negative greed and hatred as a result of experiencing pleasant and unpleasant feelings. So Anuruddha doesn't do that. Instead, he does this. He said, "If they wish, may I meditate, perceiving the repulsive in the unrepulsive." That's what they do. If they wish, may I meditate, perceiving the unrepulsive in the repulsive. That's what they do. If they wish, may I meditate, perceiving the repulsive in the unrepulsive and the repulsive. That's what they do. If they wish, may I meditate, perceiving the unrepulsive in the repulsive and the unrepulsive. That's what they do. If they wish, may I meditate, staying equanimous, mindful and aware, shunning both the repulsive and the unrepulsive. That's what they do. The pleasant feelings are suffering when they disappear, and we lose what was pleasant. And the unpleasant feelings are pleasant when they cease. So if you were suffering and your suffering stopped, that's very pleasant. I'll tell you a personal story about this to give an example of raw feelings. When I was hiking on one occasion on Mount Moosilauke in New Hampshire, I was hiking all by myself, and as I came to the top of the mountain, there was a tremendous wind, 80 miles an hour. It was, I'd never experienced anything so intense by way of the wind. And when I came to the very summit of the mountain, when I tried to go over the summit, I was actually blown over so that I fell down. I was not able to stand up to go over the top of that mountain because the wind was so strong. And I had to crawl on my hands and knees sort of around, not quite over the top, but just around the edge to get the trail on the other side. And then afterwards, it went down a little bit further. Now, this is a very old trail, and except for the summit, the trail is down in a ditch. So it's like 4 or 5 feet below the surface of the mountain because the trail is so old. It's used as a road for many decades before it was made into a national park. And so when I got down into that little depression and out of the wind, I had the sensation that I was going to live and that I would not be killed on that very day. And it caused this most extraordinary sensation of elation to be alive. It was really interesting, and it was so refreshing because most of the emotions we have are like related to social interactions and people and things like that, and it's like a sort of like a constant tension. But when you're facing the elements of nature, it's much more like basic, and it's fresh, and it's also direct like that. So the unpleasant feeling of being in danger of death became pleasant when it ended. But if you, here's another example. If you have a job and they ask you to do something unethical at work, so that's unpleasant. So you give up that job and take another job at a lower pay, but you take a job where you don't have to compromise your ethics. So you feel unpleasant feeling of having less money, and the pleasant feeling of protecting your ethics. So one experience has got both a pleasant aspect and an unpleasant aspect all at once. If you do this practice, basically you can become completely independent with respect to feelings. So you just laugh at painful feelings. You're not scared of painful feelings whatsoever. And you're not impressed or excited by pleasure or pleasant feelings. You just see them for what they are, but you're not a puppet to your feelings anymore. You have the freedom with respect to feelings, and that's a really great power when you have that, and it makes it possible for a person to moderate the intensity of any afflictive emotions that come along. And so then that ability to manage the emotions is said in secular Buddhism to be one of the benefits of mindfulness. And yeah, okay, that's true. But in our path, the path of practice, there's a lot of work to be done with the feelings. Even the blissful feelings of meditation are both something that helps us to go forward on the path, that helps us to stay in the meditation, because the pleasant feeling just makes it easier to remain. It's a good barometer to know whether we're still in the meditation or whether we lost it, if that blissful pleasant feeling is there. But then we have to also see the danger in that pleasant feeling, because it's conditioned and impermanent. And if we're so deluded that we think, oh, I'm an arahant because I'm getting blissful meditation, and I'm going to keep this forever, then you've made the wrong way when you cling to it. So when you see the danger, when you're disillusioned, then you don't cling to it. You don't cling to those pleasant feelings. Okay. So like that, they meditate, observing the feelings internally, externally, and externally, again, with this impermanence theme: liable to originate, liable to fall, liable to originate and fall. So seeing the impermanence and changeability of the feelings. And then, so that's the second of the four satipatthanas, the second foundation of mindfulness. Then they meditate, observing the mind internally, externally, and both, as liable to fall, liable to originate and fall. And so this is the same meditation of the impermanence and changeability with regard to the citta, or the mind. Now, in this case, Chitta is very commonly explained as the state of mind. So with what understanding, with what kind of view, with what kind of attitude are we experiencing the object of our mindfulness meditation? Is the mind affected by greed or free from greed? Is the mind affected by anger or free from anger? Is the mind distracted, or is the mind sunken into sloth and torpor? In that case, in the Satipatthana, part of the way that it's very commonly taught is when they see that teaching, they think of it in terms of acceptance or non-judgmental awareness. So if the mind is affected by greed and you're mindfully aware that this mind, the citta, is affected by greed, then you've done the work of being mindful. It does not mean that you should accept, favor, or delight in having a mind affected by greed. It just means that you should see it accurately as it is. But this is a correction for the tendency for a person to be in denial about the unwholesome states of mind. So if a person is affected by greed, or if a person is affected by anger, if they're affected by delusion, it's very common for an ordinary person who's not a meditator that they would deny it and that they don't see it. They're affected by anger, but they don't know that they're affected by anger. And then if they don't know it, then there's a very good chance for that anger to fester and grow and to become a constant refrain for a proliferation of thoughts. And so then they can become, in a way, like stuck in habitual anger because of not seeing it. And so then this mindfulness is learning to see what the state of mind is and what kind of intentions are active in the state of mind. There is one way that this teaching, in my opinion, is used to provide some comfort and balance to beginning meditators who are not yet able to settle into meditation because the mind is affected by some of the hindrances, greed, anger, agitation, or sloth and torpor. And in that case, I often, if somebody has that problem, that they feel like I can't meditate because my mind is in too much distress, that actually, if you stay with the meditation and don't give up meditation just because the mind is distressed, you stick with it. Don't give up the cushion, stick with it, stay for the full time. And then you actually have done the work, even though it was a horrible meditation because the mind was not doing what you want it to do, and the mind was not beautiful, the mind was ugly. But all of those ugly thoughts or ugly feelings are afflictions that disturb a person during the meditation. All of those are very good subjects that can be seen with mindfulness. And as well, the beautiful and pleasant states can and should be seen with mindfulness. That even if you're having a very blissful and stabilized meditation where you connect with the breath or the object of meditation and are able to remain there in a very calm, clear, bright, and aware state without feeling any disturbances, you shouldn't just drift along like a beautiful melody drifting in the breeze. No, you should be aware. You should be mindful. You should know what's happening with the mind. And in that way, when you see the states of mind, you can see them rising and disappearing and changing. And that is a skill that many people don't have unless they try practicing meditation and actually make the effort to notice the states of mind. I know in introductory teachings, if you take a retreat on mindfulness, one of the nice exercises that I heard from, this was given by Shinzen Young. It's a very nice exercise. He said, just keep paying attention for one sit. Just keep paying attention to the state of mind and keep moment by moment by moment. And then the question is the state of mind the same or different than what it just was before? And so you're just watching the mind to see whether it's staying the same or whether it's changing. And that's the whole exercise. This is just an exercise to be able to get tuned in, to be able to notice the state of mind. Once you have that skill and you know how to see the chitta, then you ought to observe internally, externally as impermanent, arising and falling in both. And what is this internal and external with regards to bodies, feelings, and states of mind? One explanation the explanation that I find the most convincing and actually helpful is the simplest. And that is, I have a body, and all of the other beings with bodies have bodies. So I know that my body, by inference, I know that my body is the same as all the other bodies. And so when I look at bodies externally, I'm looking at the bodies of others. I'm reflecting about the bodies of others and noticing that this body and all the other bodies are just bodies. And so that makes it become somewhat depersonalized. So I'm not thinking that this body here is the only body that is important. That this body here is the center of the universe for me. I'm decentering the importance of this body by acknowledging that this is just one body among many bodies. And likewise, the same thing with feelings. When you, if a person feels a feeling, and if they know, if there's a painful feeling, and the painful feeling can be quite distracting during meditation, quite frustrating. if you have some bodily pain or some mental pain, it's very challenging to know how to stay and remain stable and calm through the meditation, even in the midst of pain. But then, if you reflect that it's not personal, it's not really your personal pain, which is the only pain that's important with the world, is the pain that's happening inside of your body or the pain that's happening inside of your mind. That this pain is just one pain among all the pains in the whole world. And it's all pain. And in that way, if you experience that, you might, it could arouse compassion, couldn't it? So then, instead of just being miserable because of pain, you could remember to be compassionate towards painful feelings. And when there's pleasant feelings, you could notice that the whole world is filled with pleasure. The pleasant feelings, joy and bliss, are all over the world, among all kind of sentient beings. And one may rejoice and have mudita, have empathetic joy, knowing about the pleasant feelings experienced by others. And so in this way, there's two of the divine abidings that are developed by noticing feelings externally. And likewise, similarly with the states of mind, and the consciousness or the knowing faculty, I'm referring to like the Western idea of what consciousness is. So the way that I know anything at all within this mind is said to be a unique and private thing that can only be experienced directly by me. Only this mind situated and connected to this body is able to experience the blueness of the blue sky in the way that I experience it. And this is why that unique and private aspect of consciousness, that means that, even people in the same room having the same conversation or the same experience, each person is having like their own slightly different experience. And you can know by inference, you can know what they're experiencing. Of course, this is the Western idea. But you can't know it directly. So each person is like the unique owner of their own experience. And I hope you can see the danger in that from the Buddhist perspective. Because if we think about it that way, that I'm the unique owner of my own experience, and this just belongs to me and nobody else can see what I see, then I'm got the delusion of the self, and which is a danger block, and would completely eliminate the possibility of coming to a true liberation and true awakening. But if we think of mind as actually being something that's so much more universal, that this mind is similar to all of the other minds. The mindedness, the chitta-ness of the chitta, or the mindness of the mind, is like the hardness of the earth element in me is just earth element. And it's the same as the earth element on the mountain, and the earth element in my skull is just earth element. And so the same thing, like the chitta element, the element of having a mind, and the element of all the other beings having a mind, is just mind element. So there is some aspect of the mind element, or the knowing faculty that is universal, that's actually not something personal. This perception of seeing the internal and external as being the same, and getting out of the egoism, is a perception that can be cultivated and developed with mindfulness, and helps us to gain the benefits of this path of practice. So that's the mind, and then for each one of these, in addition to the internal and the external, and in addition, they meditate the internal, the external, the rising and falling, and the repulsive and unrepulsive. So those three looks are supposed to be given to each one of these foundations. It gets missed in this translation because of the ellipses, but Anuruddha's practice is to look at 4 foundations in 3 ways. So he's got 12 reflections to do. And then the Dhammas, meditate observing the Dhamma, or principles, internally, externally, and both. And the principles that are given in the Satipatthana Sutta are 2 of the most important are the hindrances, the 5 hindrances, and the 7 factors of awakening. The hindrances are the blocks or the obstacles that make it difficult to settle into meditation, and which also support delusion and block wisdom. And then the factors of awakening are actually a different angle on the stages that we experience within meditation when meditation is successful. So it's like if you wanted to talk about the progress of meditation, or how to meditate, or what would be the marks of success in meditation, if you learn the 7 factors, then you know where you're at in meditation. That's really what those are about. It's called the 7 factors of awakening because it culminates in Samma Samadhi. That's also the culmination of the Eightfold Noble Path. And Samma Samadhi, the full collectedness, or concentration and deep meditation, is the gateway for wisdom. And then wisdom is the gateway to fully let go and abandon craving and clinging. There are other factors listed in the Satipatthana Sutta and the Mahasatipatthana Sutta. They're explained at more length. That has to do with it becomes a kind of an encyclopedia of Buddhism in terms of seeing, as I mentioned earlier, seeing the sense bases, seeing the 4 elements of materiality, and especially seeing the 4 noble truths, and reflecting and contemplating about all of those. It is wonderful practice. And I think, in a way, this gets to be almost like a way I see in some of the later teachings, like in the commentarial teachings, and in the you have like a multiplication of the different combinations of the factors. So, for example, in metta meditation, you're looking at gods, humans, animals, and beings in the lower realms, and then you're looking in the 10 directions. So then you take in each one of the 10 directions, you look at the gods, the humans, the animals, and the beings in the lower realms, in the north, the northeast, the southeast, and so on. So you're going through this. It's like a circular round of list of factors that gets repeated with a slight variation. This is, in a way, a mnemonic device, but more importantly, it's a way to take, in the case of the Dhammanupassana, of the fourth foundation, don't just take that as being some kind of intellectual catechism that has to be memorized and understood intellectually, but instead take each one of the ideas that's listed in this section and take it as a theme of meditation and contemplation. So if you're contemplating about the Four Noble Truths, and you're contemplating where does suffering arise, and when it arises, where does it settle down? And then that teaching that's given in the Satipatthana, the I is dear and delightful in this world. When there's craving and delight for the I, that's where suffering arises, and that's where it settles down. So you can meditate on that for like the whole hour, and then go through all of the senses, and then go through the mind, and then say, thinking is delightful in this world. But when we welcome delight and cling to thinking, that's where suffering arises, that's where suffering settles down. So each one of those can be a theme. You could take an hour. You could design a meditation retreat, and it might take a month to take each one of those themes. And so once you take that theme, it's like one sentence in the sutta, and then according to this teaching, you would meditate it, this thought. I'm going to go to the top. You would take each one of those thoughts in the Satipatthana, and you would observe it internally as liable to originate, to fall, and to vanish. And then you would contemplate it externally as liable to originate, fall, and vanish. And then you take that very same thought and you ponder, can I meditate with this thought, perceiving the repulsive and the unrepulsive? In other words, seeing the feeling state, like, do I like it or do I hate it? And if I've taught about that, this is contemplating how suffering arises and how it settles down. So, oh, that's repulsive. So you can see the repulsive, you can see the danger in that. But then you can see, because of impermanence, that suffering also ceases. And so then you can find so you can do that second contemplation within that, and then you can finally, like at the culmination, I say that this is the aim of this practice here is about staying equanimous, mindful and aware, shunning repulsive and unrepulsive. So you take each one of the ideals in the Dhamma section of the Satipatthana, and you meditate with that idea until you can bring yourself to that state of equanimity. So you've made it impersonal because you've done the internal, external. You've seen the impermanence of it, and you've caused the mind to become equanimous towards that truth. So that's Anuruddha's system of meditation. So in the you can see that I'm not going through the entire Satipatthana in this hour, but we may do it on another occasion, because I was thinking to continue with looking at mindfulness for the next few months. So he concludes, that's how to define the undertaking of the 4 kinds of mindfulness meditation by a mendicant. So this is my talk, and now I'll see many comments. Okay, I've got plenty of time to answer comments. Hello, Ryan. Hello, Mrs. Sri Lanka, Moonbeams, Bhumika, Shahab. If you would like to translate that translate this one to English, I'll try to answer it. Here's Ryan regarding the body. Did the Buddha have back problems from meditation or past karma, or both? I am sort of ignoring minor aches as a cost-benefit reward. Could you impart your wisdom for mitigating pain or managing the meditation process for pain, please? Yes, this is a very common question, and it's a very common experience. First of all, the Buddha had the karma to be born as a human being, and he was long-lived, living up to the age of 80. So I think it would be natural for the human body, when it reaches such an extreme age, to begin to have pains. And so I think I don't know, and I'm not qualified to comment on whether there's some particular karma that the Buddha had that caused the pain to be in his back rather than his knee. But I think it's an aspect of having chosen voluntarily to take a human existence. So there's two basic within this sutta. There's the teaching to take the pain and to notice if it continuously stays exactly the same or whether it's changing. And depending on how you place your attention, sometimes the mind, the pain comes and goes. Sometimes just from the course of nature, the pain comes and goes. Then this is recommending to contemplate internally and externally. So be aware that it's not just your pain, that this is the pain that belongs to all of the sentient beings. And then regarding perceiving the repulsive and the unrepulsive and so on, So there is something that can happen when looking directly at the painful experience, but not closing in on a perception, like the proliferation of perceptions about it, but instead sort of like relaxing with the pain, and it gets to be sort of like a vibration or a warmth or a heat or something like that, and then just remaining with that, like being equanimous towards the pain. So your attitude towards the pain is equanimous, even though it's painful, and just staying with it and watching it. Does sometimes it can happen that the pain breaks up, and when that happens, it's really extremely pleasant. And so you can, by adjusting your attitude towards the pain, you may be able to perceive the repulsive and unrepulsive aspects within the pain. And then you can then with the equanimity aspect, you are coming to ignore the repulsiveness of the pain. So then ignoring minor aches and pains is also, and this depends on what kind of meditation you're doing. If you're striving for, like jhana, like striving for concentration, one strategy is to just place the attention at one small area of the body, like the sensation of the breath touching your lip. That's a classic, or the sensation of the breath around the face, and just keep the attention directed there and ignore everything else. So the only thing that you're interested in is just one small point of attention, and in doing that, one can obtain concentration, and then when you obtain concentration, the touching sensations in the body, that's where the physical pain is, that would disappear, because the mind is no longer interested in the five senses. So the mind actually is fully withdrawn from giving any kind of attention to the five senses. And I have one friend, a bhikkhuni, who is capable of jhana, and was capable of having several cavities drilled out without any anesthesia by simply going into samadhi. And she didn't feel the pain of the dental work because the mind's in samadhi. So that is a possibility if you're able to get there. Okay. He goes on, also my info may be wrong, but I understand that sitting is not natural for the body and a cause of ailments and body problems. I'm not convinced of that at all. People who are Westerners who spend far too much time sitting on chairs lose the flexibility of the body, or the ability to sit in the cross-legged posture. And the cross-legged posture is natural, it's stable, and if the joints of the legs and hips are able to be flexible enough to hold that posture, that's a posture that naturally puts the back into the ideal and the most comfortable way of keeping an upright position in the back. Sitting in a chair, it's much more challenging and difficult to keep and maintain an ideal orientation of the back. So my recommendation is that while you're doing things around the house, if you're studying, reading the paper, watching a program, if you would sit in the cross-legged posture, and if you work in an office, if you would get them to build you an asana at your desk at the office, and then sit in the cross-legged posture throughout the day while you're doing your job. Or if you're, I don't know, customer service or something, maybe they'll let you do it in that posture. But I've known, actually, I knew a meditator who did this. They built an asana at her desk. Her job involved computer work all day long. And she had a fantastic posture and was able to sit without difficulty and without pain because she just got used to it and remained used to it. So, okay. Welcome, Manal, Tumak. Are there proven techniques to meditate while applying painful or pleasurable sensations to practice equanimity in active sensational states? I ask because meditation seems to always be practiced in calm and natural settings. It seems like a conceptual exercise in a low sensory state. Absolutely, I absolutely agree with that. So when you're learning meditation, you take a simple, protected situation and develop the skill in a more protected situation. But then if you do more extended meditation, that brings its own a whole new set of challenges, which is also worth confronting and facing. But once mindfulness is fully developed, it operates in all the postures and in every situation, including active situations of talking, interacting with people, doing things that are difficult, doing things that are challenging and absorbing. Say, if you've got a job that you got to do like a complicated procedure with many steps, and you have to be able to remember all the steps and don't forget any of the steps in the procedure that you're carrying out. And so while being absorbed in that's you can also convert that from, that's a kind of mindfulness, but it's not right mindfulness. But if you take your moments of meditation from time to time, take a pause, take a break for a minute, and once you've learned mindfulness, you can call it up quickly. And so in just 30 seconds, you can bring mindful awareness to your state of mind, the state of the feelings, the state of the body, and to what Dhamma is actually happening in the moment as you go through all the activities of life. And that's like I think a real mastery in mindfulness to be able to do that. More regarding noticing the states of mind, I liken observing the mind to people watching, observing the birds in the park, people interacting skillfully or unskillfully, etc. Am I close in my approximation? Like watching the world go by without judging it? Chitta and Chaitana have the same root. Chitta commonly is often translated as the state of mind, and the Chaitana is a volition. And so one thing that's really significant about a state of mind is that it leads us to do things. It leads us to commit karmas, which are going to be either skillful or not skillful. And I have a procedure which is not quite what you're speaking about, Ryan, but maybe a little bit similar, which is a kind of a dialogue. So it's like if you suppose the state of mind is restless, that I would say, I would speak to the restless mind. And I would say, oh, restlessness. Oh, Mr. Restlessness. Oh, Mrs. Restlessness. What's happening now? What is this? What's it about? And sort of like I invite the mind to reveal, like the restlessness is actually could be a type of aversion that I don't want to be here. I want to get up and take a nap. So I'm aversive to, to what's happening, and the restlessness is trying to, defeat the meditation. And then once I see that, the way to be equanimous about it, when I'm talking to these different moods or states of mind, I kind of say, okay, well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing, but I don't need to obey you right now. So I just acknowledge it, but I don't have to be subjected to it. So I have freedom and connection to it. Bhikkhu Analayo, when he speaks about observing the activities of the mind, he actually does use the metaphor of the nanny or the parent in the park while the children are playing around. And so the parent is watching the children play, and they're not interfering with the children's activities, but they are keeping them safe. And so just like that, in watching the activity of the mind, it's like a parent or a caregiver sitting on the park bench watching the children playing. Okay. Hi, Matthew. Zen Master Empty Cloud, Shuyun, emphasizes the practice of dropping off body and mind, not giving rise to a single thought as the path to enlightenment. Successfully dropping body and mind leads to realized oneness. What is left with the successful dropping of body and mind? So this will be referring to samadhi practice, which is further practice than samasati. So samasati, the part of bhavana, the mental cultivation, is samavayama, the right effort to purify the mind of skillful and unskillful qualities. Then samasati, which is this detached observation, which does include reflections and thoughts. And then samadhi is coming to the dropping away of thoughts, dropping away of the physical sensations. And then when you come into the immaterial meditation, there's a dropping away of perceptions, dropping away of connection to the material body, and experiencing pure, boundless consciousness, and then even allowing the consciousness itself to drop away. And I think that could be what is referred to with this dropping of body and mind. And emerging from that state is one of the most powerful opportunities for that wisdom of enlightenment to arise. Or if this practice doesn't lead to enlightenment, it could lead to being reborn in the state of pure consciousness, or the state of nothingness. And the main wisdom that I'd like to suggest is emerging from that state. Don't cling to that state. If you cling to that state, you won't get the benefit of it. But if you emerge from that state and you're not clinging to it, that's where you've got the opportunity for waking up. We were just looking at Sutta 106 in the Middle Length Discourses that talks about the imperturbable. And that's exactly the advice that the Buddha gave for states that are just like what you're describing. And he said, don't cling to it. That's the main thing. First, don't cling to it, but these states are valuable and beneficial states, beneficial kinds of meditation that can lead to the liberation by wisdom. You want, in order to have a stream entry, you want the wisdom, you want the insight. And then in order to be an arhat, you want a combination of the wisdom and the complete giving up of craving and clinging. So when you get those two things together, then you've really got it. So the deep meditation, like things that in the ordinary state of mind, we think, like I've got this body and I've got these aches and pains and all of these sensations, and I'm like stuck with them, and I'm, as much as I'd rather have the peace and calm of not having to be disturbed and bothered by all these sensations going on all the time. Nevertheless, if I don't have concentration, then I continually have to patiently acknowledge the burden of having sensations always happening, and just practicing patience and equanimity with that. But then, if one is able to come to samadhi or concentration, jhana, or the immaterial meditations, then you can obtain seclusion from that continuous flow of sensations, and the mind is able to learn that sensations are optional. We don't have to have them all the time. And knowing that, it's like realizing that actually the cessation that we're aiming for at the very end, the cessation of nibbana, that actual cessation is possible. That's my understanding. Moonbeam, what does it mean to shun both the repulsive and the shunning the repulsive and the unrepulsive? Does it mean letting go of contemplations after we developed the desired attitude? So I don't think that actually this is encouraging us to develop an attitude of either the pleasant. I'm going to use the pleasant and the repulsive. It's a little easier to understand. So one of those is going to arise naturally because of our underlying tendencies and our past life experience. And so we didn't try to, he's not recommending that we should try to love ice cream. It happens naturally. But we should try to counteract the craving for ice cream. And so developing the opposite is done to break the grip of our natural instinctive reactions to things. And then, but once we've developed, like, so ice cream, oh, that's repulsive. You don't want to stay with that either. He's not, the Buddha is not recommending that we have an attitude that we hate ice cream. And instead, that's just a skillful means to overcome the craving for ice cream. And so having used that skillful means by seeing the disadvantage in ice cream, then the mind can become shunning both the repulsive and non-repulsive and just be equanimous towards ice cream. And so, like ice cream, it's got a little bit of protein, and so that's good for you, and it's got some sugar, and that is dangerous in a large quantity, but a little bit of sugar might give you a short-term burst of energy, and so you know what ice cream does, and you know its qualities, but you've given up on either being craving ice cream or being against ice cream. We're come to the time. Let me see if I can go faster. I know other Empty Cloud monastics are more skillful than me in talking short. Is right mindfulness only what must be practiced, mainly the 4 objects of Satipatthana, during meditation, during daily activities? I answered that before. Yes, during daily activities. Welcome, Thongkam. Welcome, Brianna. Matthew again. I do an electroconvulsive laying down meditation where the body shakes and convulses considerably. Yeah, well, that can happen. So I don't necessarily have advice for it, but all kinds of things can happen in meditation. Don't cling to any of them, and don't hate any of them, but just abide patiently and use the practical knowledge you have to take care of your situation. So if it's something that's not healthy or safe, then try to find out how to take care of it. But if it's harmless to you, then it's just one of those things. Ryan, like parenting the mind. Yes. Parenting, yes, okay. Detached observer, pure observing wisdom, yes. Okay. Here's the last question. Recognizing the illusory nature of reality helps to extinguish the power, which leaves one unperturbed. The Buddha doesn't usually speak about reality. That's like a sort of a philosophical area that is tricky and not necessarily productive. He might say, recognizing the illusory nature of delusions else to extinguish their power and leaves one unperturbed. So it's very interesting to observe how some things seem to be real and some things, like what you quote real, is actually a reference to what seems to be important. If you're having I won't go on about that, but contemplation, ontology, the nature of reality is not really the main drift. Our main drift is about what leads to escape from suffering. And so that brings us to the end of this evening, and I'm really glad to have had a chance to talk about such a delightful sutta, and I appreciate all the good questions. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.